All right, everybody, welcome back to the home build. Today we're going to talk about lessons learned part 2. And so there's a few things that I want to talk about, the kind of lessons learned of going through the building process, which hopefully you'll take some of these lessons learned, apply them to what your home build is, and be a little happier there at the end. So starting off with upgrading your windows. So for our windows, we had a budget, so we were kind of stuck with what we got, but it would have been nice to have a little more in our budget to upgrade our windows. So the builder that we have, I'm gonna have to bash him a little bit, and I really don't like that, is JELWIN. The windows that came out, they don't roll properly. Here's a JELWIN slider. Now, this might be the low end version of it, but not too bad here. But the windows, they don't lock properly, they don't fasten properly, they leak, air leakage. Let's go take a look. So here's one particular window. I strongly realize that you get what you pay for. We got something cheap, that's what we get. So the roller systems on it, they're just hard to roll. It takes quite a lot of effort. Okay, the seal on it to me is not adequate enough. So here's just it's one of those brush type seals. Same with down there on the bottom, and then as well as on the other side. So air is going to be coming through. Some of them, this little wimpy lock right here. This one in particular closed fairly well, but most of the others right in here doesn't lock. Let's go look at some that don't lock. So here's a good example. I can't even get this one to lock properly. And I can't even get the darn thing to barely open. So that's a problem, and this is what we're having with most of the windows that we have. From talking with people that actually work at JELWIN or have worked there, quality control, there's just about zero when it comes to quality control. Those aren't words that are coming out of my mouth. You know, the product speaks it. So not too happy with it. Even trying to close, and this is all of them, okay? When the window was installed, it was installed properly. It was square, it was plumb, all that sort of thing. Shouldn't have a problem. So currently I can't even get the darn thing to latch. So something's got to be tweaked or done to it to try to get the latch. Frankly, it's a hazard right now where somebody could break in, trying to get it to latch. Same with the rollers, you know, they're just cheesy, wimpy rollers. We need to go through and clean everything real well, trying to get things to actually work properly. That shouldn't be something that the homeowner has to come through and try to make adjustments to make it work. The reps do come out and make those adjustments, but from what I've heard through all of the communications online, is they're very hard to get to come out to it. And as well as when it comes to the builder, them trying to get them to come out, it's kind of a toss-up of when they could. Some people get lucky and they come out right away. Others are waiting a year or more. So that's not right either. You want to stand by your product, get your butts out there, make those adjustments, keep people happy. So lesson learned number 1 is trying to upgrade. There's lots of other upgrades you can do. Triple panes. Pella is a great brand. You know, I'm a big fan of those, installing those windows. They always function correctly. They're dealers. They come out and fix things right away when they need to. So, and as well as Andersen, certain Andersen windows are good products. So think of those other, so Pella would be more expensive. Andersen is a middle road as far as that quality. In my opinion, JELWIN just tanks right there at the bottom. So, but got what I paid for, sadly. But as far in that mentality, but frankly, I spent a lot on these windows. They still should function better than what they're getting. So all the windows, except for that first one you saw, can't even get the darn thing to latch. So Same with that one over there. It's the same exact thing. So windows, do your best to upgrade it. So if I was to try and change these out now, oh boy, tearing into the siding, all that WRB, trying to get everything lapped properly, that's the correct way of doing it. And it's just a very invasive process. And so I'm going to try to clean these, lubricate them, make some adjustment. Not every homeowner can do those sorts of things, but I'm going to try my best to make it actually function and latch. After that, I'm going to be harping on the ability to get somebody out to fix it. It's on the punch list, so we'll see. And that sort of thing. So ideally is paying for it. It probably would only cost about another $2,000, which I say only. In retrospect of the whole overall cost, it's not as high, but that would have been the right time to change and have it done right. So the next lesson learned to really pay attention to is when you make adjustments during the framing, you're adding speaker wires, you're adding chases, you're adding all these locations of where can lights are up in the ceilings or anything that's kind of hidden. Make sure you're documenting that on a set of plans, a drawing, and keep track of where those are. So there's multiple times where my plans, I misplaced them, or at least I thought, and I get all worried because those are my dimensions of where my can lights are. So all these can lights up in the ceilings. Here's a great example. So I got a patch right there. And so this patch up in the ceiling, which I still got to finish, I had it marked on the set of plans that I was going to do 6 can lights. Well, I changed it to 4. Well, but I didn't update that on the set of plans, so hence I had 1 can in the wrong direction. Luckily, I make these videos and I'm able to go back and look at all my videos and figure out where that wire was so that I could drill them in the correct spot. So hindsight, video's been great for that type of thing, is double checking where things are. So, all right, lesson learned number 3 is my trim upgrade. It's kind of disappointed about that. So in the very beginning, we picked colonial type trim, which is kind of like this here. How it goes around the windows. It's kind of at the lower end of our choices. So, looking at something like this, how everything comes together, it's fine, it's okay, done many times, but what we wanted was a Craftsman style, which is basically a 1x4 with a decorative portion at the top, square trim, top hangs over, and then I could add a decorative piece at the top of that to kind of make it pop a little easier, or a little better. But when we decided that change, it was after the drawings were being made, so we couldn't do that. We emailed, we talked about it, and somewhere in translation, it never got through. Now I have all this trim that it would be a lot to go through and change everything, but at that particular time, it was a few $100s more. Could have got something a little bit better. Would have been nice to have done it then. The other thing is the doors. They're hollow core doors, which are fine. It's just the sound of them. They just speak low quality. And so we elected to do that. And I'm trying to be as positive as I can, and that is within our budget. But as a craftsman, as a carpenter, it's hard for me to be happy with it. And so therefore, that as far as lessons go learned, thinking of things like that, how the hardware closes, latches, comes together, the sounds of the door closing, when you have a solid corridor, so it's a solid wood or solid material, the sound of it, the from one side to the other doesn't transfer through as easy, and it just sounds more like quality. So trying to pick something that a little higher end at those times. It's a little bit more money. Well, it's going to cost a lot more if I have to go through and change everything now, because I'm like paying for it twice. So lesson learned number 3. All right, lesson learned number 4 because have a big feeling that this is happening, is you're in your documentation decisions, you're documenting all the decisions made. So text messages, emails, things like that are sent for communication, make sure you're saving all that. But here's the other thing that they don't want to tell you. On one end where they started it, if they delete it, whether it's a text message or, and I'm not a tech savvy a person, but text messages, emails, that sort of thing, if they get deleted, the chain of emails on one end, it deletes it. No matter where you save it from folder to folder, that whole chain gets deleted. So therefore, it feels like no documentation was taken into account. There was decisions that were made, and through text messages, through phone calls, and through emails that I believe have been deleted, and therefore they're gone, so there's no proof. So one way you can do it is as you go, take screenshots of it so that you can have that proof that you've made that decision, you made that communication, so when it's not done to what it's supposed to be, or what's delivered or installed is not what it's supposed to be, you have that proof, and somebody couldn't have deleted it and say, I can't find the proof. So, such as your trim, your windows. So like in one aspect is these windows at the top up here, they weren't in the plans, but there was a decision that was made later and talked about, and therefore we had to prove to them that was a decision made. They couldn't find it, so we pulled up all those emails and that sort of thing where we talked about it, and lo and behold, there was proof, so we got our windows. Schedules, document when they say they're going to be done, hold it to them. Okay, I'm a builder, and that's a tough decision, but it should be a two-way street as far as if I have a deadline I have to meet, well, guess what? They should have a deadline to meet as well. So, but that needs to be documented in writing and that sort of thing. All right, so documentation. Just keep that in mind. Any decision, phone calls you make, write it down. Okay, time, date, what you talked about, who you talked about it with, all those things are going to help. So, because frankly, 6 months later, you might have a hard time trying to remember what you said. So the fifth lesson learned was knowing your budget. And we knew our budget, hence the reason the windows, the trim, and that sort of thing. We knew our budget and we had to stick with those. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to afford this nice house. So know your budget so you know when to stop. So knowing your budget, super helpful, because every little more thing that you want is going to be extras. Even garage door openers are extras. So we constantly were like, well, how much is that going to cost? Is that extra? Sometimes they'll do it and they charge you extra and you don't realize, hey, that's an extra or that's an upgrade. So other things to think of when you're building a home is your furniture, size of furniture, that sort of thing. There's a little extra cost for that. So in addition to building your home, there's also furnishing your home. So those are extra costs that you got to be aware of and ready for at that time. Electronics. So they were providing a coax cable and that was it. And nowadays we do a lot of streaming. So you got to have other cable where your modem and your Wi-Fi is going to be. So you can have it in those locations. Your USB for high definition. Think of USB ports for your TV to your cable box, or your TV to your modem, and that sort of thing, so that you have that inside the walls. Speakers, Bluetooth. They have Bluetooth just about everything, but those hard connections are still so much better. And frankly, Bluetooth, let's let that be a backup. Have that hardwired in the framing during the building process. So knowing your budget, all those things are extras. So, but being aware of those things so that either you pay for them, you install them yourself, or that sort of thing. So knowing where you're at, and as well as moving costs. So moving from place to place isn't free. Some way or another, you're going to be spending money, and keep a budget for that as well. So don't forget about that. All right, now here's the last lesson learned. As far as timelines, put a cost to it. So if they put a cost to you, which we did, we were held to certain costs if we went over a certain time frame. Well, that should be a two-way street. If they go past on a certain deadline, they pay the cost. Because here's what's going to cost us extra for 4 months was every month that we went over, we're paying dual mortgages. There's a cost. Okay, dual insurances. There's a cost. Fees on your loans. So certain loans, if you go past a certain date, your building construction loan term, you're paying for extra fees such as interest rate. So again, as far as extra costs, that if you don't have those timelines in writing, is your loan costs. Could cost you extra interest rates. So we were able to get locked in a way. We were lucky, but there's other builders, there's other people, owners that we know, same builders, same delays, but with different banks, and it's cost them 2 to 3 extra interest rates, possibly more points in interest. So that could be over $500. Well, that kind of just about sums up all my lessons learned so far. Some things I wanted to just share was the windows, documentation, the trim and doors, and make a document on the set of plans or anything that's hidden in the walls, knowing your budget, and then as well as your having writing your timelines. So in all, even though there's lessons learned, which is they're lessons learned, things we learn and to get better from. So hopefully you're getting better by these lessons learned. It's still an enjoyable process. I love building. I'll do it again. Not anytime soon. Need some time to relax and before my other projects start. But it's been fun. So hopefully you enjoyed. So it's been a great process. It's been trying process as far as patience and that sort of thing, but that's part of the building process. So hopefully you enjoyed. Like always, look forward to seeing you next time on the home build, and make sure and be safe out there.